The red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the UHS Defiance as Captain Jake Morrison stared at the incoming transmission from Federation Command. The year 2387 had started like any other, with humanity serving as junior members of the Galactic Federation, doing patrol duties and small missions that the more advanced alien species considered beneath them. For over 200 years, humans had been trying to prove themselves worthy of respect among the 47 different species that made up the Federation. Jake pressed the accept button, and Admiral Lisa Parker's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was grim, and Jake could see the stress lines that had not been there just weeks ago. Behind her, the command center buzzed with frantic activity as officers from various species worked at their stations with obvious panic. "Jake, we need you and every available human ship to report to Sector 7 immediately," Lisa said without her usual pleasantries. "The situation has escalated beyond anything we've faced before." "What kind of situation requires pulling every human vessel from patrol duty?" Jake asked, leaning forward in his captain's chair. His crew members looked up from their stations, sensing the tension in their captain's voice. Lisa took a deep breath before responding. 3 star systems have gone completely dark in the past 2 weeks. No communications, no distress signals, nothing. When our scout ships investigated, they found something that should not exist. The screen changed to show recordings from the lost systems. Jake watched in horror as massive black ships, each one larger than a city, moved through space like predators, hunting prey. These vessels had a design unlike anything in the Federation database, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light itself. As the recording continued, Jake saw these ships approach planets and deploy smaller craft that began consuming everything in their path. "The Voidborn have returned," Lisa continued as the recording ended. "Our historians believed they were just legends from ancient times, but the evidence is undeniable. These machines devoured entire civilizations millions of years ago before disappearing into the dark space beyond our galaxy." Jake felt his blood run cold. Every species in the Federation knew the old stories about the Voidborn, the mechanical plague that had consumed countless worlds before vanishing without explanation. Most had dismissed these tales as mythology, stories told to frighten children and explain why certain regions of space remained empty. "How are the other species handling this?" Jake asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer from Lisa's expression. "That's the problem," Lisa replied. "The Xanthari sent their most advanced battle fleets using strategies perfected over thousands of years. The Voidborn adapted to their tactics within hours and destroyed every ship. The Krogan followed with their legendary warrior fleets, using brute force methods that had never failed them before. Same result. The screen showed battle footage from the failed engagements. Jake watched as elegant Xanthari vessels, known throughout the galaxy for their precision and tactical superiority, were systematically destroyed by Voidborn ships that seemed to learn and counter every move. The mighty Krogan warships, feared by every species for their overwhelming firepower, lasted barely longer before being consumed by the mechanical swarms. The Ethereals tried using their telepathic abilities to disrupt the machines, Lisa continued. But the Voidborn have no minds to influence, only cold logic and adaptive programming. Every strategy, every weapon, every tactic that has served the Federation for centuries has proven useless. Jake studied the tactical displays showing Voidborn fleet movements. The machines moved with perfect coordination, each ship responding to threats with calculated precision. Their formations never broke. Their responses never varied from optimal efficiency. It was like watching a computer program made manifest in physical form. "The worst part is how quickly they adapt," Lisa explained. "Intelligence reports show that the Voidborn learn from every encounter. If you use energy weapons, they develop shields. If you try ramming attacks, they create countermeasures. If you attempt flanking maneuvers, they predict and counter them. Within hours of any engagement, they become immune to whatever strategy you used. The bridge fell silent as Jake's crew absorbed this information. Chief Engineer Danny Walsh spoke up from his station. "Admiral, if the most advanced species in the Federation can't stop these things, what makes anyone think we can help?" Lisa's expression shifted, and for the first time in the conversation, Jake saw something that might have been hope. That's exactly why the Federation Council has made an unprecedented decision. For the first time in galactic history, they're activating Protocol 7. Protocol 7? Jake had never heard of any such protocol in all his years of service. "Deploy the humans," Lisa said simply. "The Council has realized that every species they've sent against the Voidborn thinks and fights in predictable patterns. The Zenthari use logic, the Krogan use brute force, the Ethereals use mental powers. All of these approaches can be analyzed, understood, and countered by a sufficiently advanced artificial intelligence." Jake began to understand where this was. Leading, but humans fight differently. Exactly. Human military doctrine has always been viewed as chaotic and unpredictable by other Federation species. What they see as primitive and inefficient might be exactly what we need against an enemy that counters logical strategies. The transmission showed recent footage of human training exercises. Unlike the perfect formations and calculated movements of alien fleets, human ships moved in seemingly random patterns. Human tactics appeared chaotic, with individual commanders making split-second decisions based on intuition rather than predetermined battle plans. "The Council has granted humans complete tactical autonomy," Lisa continued. "No alien advisors, no Federation oversight, no requirements to follow established military doctrine. You have full authority to engage the Voidborn using whatever methods you think will work." Jake felt the weight of this responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity had spent 2 centuries trying to prove they belonged among the advanced species of the galaxy. Now, when the galaxy's survival was at stake, they were being asked to embrace the very qualities that other species had always criticized them for. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. "Intelligence suggests the Voidborn are moving toward the core systems. If they maintain their current pace, they'll reach the Federation's most populated worlds within months." "Jake, I won't lie to you about what we're asking. Every projection shows that stopping the Voidborn will require sacrifices that no species has ever been willing to make." Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These men and women had joined the Federation fleet to explore the stars and protect innocent lives. Now they were being asked to face an enemy that had destroyed civilizations when their own species was still learning to make fire. "Understood, Admiral. We'll rally every human ship in the sector and head for the front lines." "Jake," Lisa said quietly, "the entire galaxy is counting on you. Don't let them down." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in thoughtful silence. Jake stood and walked to the forward viewport, staring out at the stars that had suddenly become a battlefield where the survival of countless worlds would be decided. Commander Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge of his flagship UHS Liberty as the human task force assembled in the Kepler system. Ships from Earth's various military branches had answered the call, creating a fleet that looked nothing like the organized formations other Federation species preferred. The vessels moved in loose groups, each captain maintaining their own preferred distance and approach vectors. Captain Nicole Turner brought her ship UHS Relentless alongside the Liberty, her crew already running combat drills that would seem insane to alien observers. Lieutenant Colonel San Rodriguez commanded a squadron of marine assault ships designed for boarding actions, while Dr. Amy Collins worked from her research vessel to analyze every piece of data about the Voidborn that Federation intelligence had gathered. All ships report ready for briefing. came the voice of Communications Officer Kate Morgan from her station. Ryan opened a channel to address the entire human fleet. Ladies and gentlemen, you all know why we're here. The most advanced military. Minds in the galaxy have tried and failed to stop the Voidborn. Now it's our turn. Through the view screen, Ryan could see the faces of human commanders on dozens of ships. These were men and women who had spent their careers being told their methods were too chaotic, too unpredictable, too primitive for modern warfare. The irony was not lost on anyone that these same qualities were now being seen as humanity's greatest assets. Dr. Collins, share your analysis with the fleet, Ryan ordered. Amy's voice came through clearly as her data appeared on every ship's tactical display. The Voidborn operate using adaptive algorithms that learn from every engagement. They study their opponent's tactics, identify patterns, and develop countermeasures. Every Federation species fights according to established doctrines that can be analyzed and predicted. The display showed battle recordings from the failed alien engagements. Ryan watched as Anthari's ships moved in perfect geometric formations, their every action following centuries of refined military theory. The Krogan fleets demonstrated their traditional hammer-blow tactics, using overwhelming force applied at predicted weak points. Even the mysterious ethereals had followed recognizable patterns in their telepathic assault strategies. The problem is that logical warfare follows mathematical principles, Amy continued. The Voidborn can calculate optimal responses to any strategy based on known variables. But human combat doctrine doesn't follow those same logical patterns. Captain, Turner's voice crackled over the com. So what you're saying is that our reputation for being crazy might actually help us? Exactly. Human military tactics incorporate elements that artificial intelligence finds difficult to predict. Intuition, emotional responses, creative leaps in logic, and the willingness to completely abandon a failing strategy mid-battle. Ryan studied the tactical information flowing across his screens. The Voidborn had consumed 3 star systems in 2 weeks, their machine fleets growing stronger with each victory. Intelligence reports showed they were heading toward the Centauri colonies, home to over 2 billion Federation citizens. All ships set course for the Kepler 442 system. That's where we make our first stand, Ryan announced. The human fleet moved out in a formation that would have given alien tacticians headaches. Instead of maintaining rigid geometric patterns, the ships spread out in loose clusters that constantly shifted position. Some vessels moved ahead of the main group, while others lagged behind, creating a seemingly disorganized approach that actually provided multiple tactical options. As they traveled through hyperspace, Ryan met with his senior commanders via holographic conference. Nicole Turner appeared as a flickering blue image, her expression serious but determined. Sam Rodriguez looked ready for a fight, while Amy Collins continued analyzing data even during the meeting. Intel suggests the Voidborn have established a harvesting operation in the 442 system, Ryan began. They're converting planetary matter into new war machines while their fleet guards the operation. Standard Federation doctrine would call for a direct assault on their main fleet, Nicole observed. Maximum firepower concentrated on their largest vessels, which is exactly what they'll expect and be prepared for, Sam added. We need to think differently. Amy leaned forward in her holographic form. I've been studying human neural patterns. Compared to other Federation species, our brain structure creates decision-making processes that are genuinely chaotic from a mathematical perspective. We make intuitive leaps that bypass logical progression. Meaning? Ryan asked. Meaning that while other species think through problems step by step, humans often jump to solutions without showing their work. This makes our actions nearly impossible for the Voidborn to predict. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and immediately every human commander felt their breath catch. The void-born presence was even more massive than intelligence reports had suggested. Dozens of the city-sized harvester ships surrounded the systems. Planets, while smaller craft, swarmed like insects around dying worlds. "Jesus," whispered someone over the open comm channel. "All ships maintain silence," Ryan ordered. "Dr. Collins, what are we looking at?" The main void-born fleet consists of approximately 40 capital ships with hundreds of support vessels. They're systematically dismantling the fourth planet and using the raw materials to construct additional units. Through the view screen, Ryan could see the terrible efficiency of the void-born operation. Mechanical tendrils reached down to planetary surfaces, extracting everything from atmosphere to bedrock. The collected matter flowed up to massive construction. Platforms where new war machines took shape with frightening speed. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the void-born fleet," Kate Morgan reported. "Put it through." A cold, emotionless voice filled the bridge. "Unknown vessels, you will withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This system is being processed for conversion. Resistance is futile." Ryan looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were ordinary humans who had volunteered to face an enemy that had defeated species with technology, centuries ahead of Earth's capabilities. But there was something in their expressions that Ryan doubted any alien could understand. A stubborn refusal to accept impossible odds. "All ships, this is Commander Hayes," Ryan announced to the fleet. "Forget everything you learned about proper fleet tactics. Forget formation flying, coordinated attacks, and logical targeting priorities. Trust your instincts, watch each other's backs, and remember that we're not here to fight fair." Nicole Turner's voice came through the comm with obvious excitement. "Finally, someone who speaks our language. Dr. Collins, I want you monitoring void-born responses to everything we do. The moment they start adapting to any tactic, signal the fleet to switch approaches." "Understood, Commander." Ryan took a deep breath and gave the order that would begin humanity's first engagement with the ancient enemy. "All ships, attack pattern random." Repeat, attack pattern random. Show these machines what chaos looks like. The human fleet scattered in all directions, each ship choosing its own approach vector and target. To any observer familiar with military doctrine, it looked like complete madness. But as Ryan watched his tactical display, he began to smile. For the first time in the war against the Voidborn, the enemy was about to face something they had never encountered before: genuine human unpredictability. The first human attack on the Voidborn fleet began exactly as Commander Ryan Hayes had ordered, with complete chaos. Captain Nicole Turner dove her ship UHS Relentless straight toward the largest enemy vessel, firing her weapons in patterns that made no tactical sense to any military computer. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Rodriguez split his Marine assault ships into 3 groups that attacked from different angles, while other human captains chose their own targets based on nothing more than gut instinct. The Voidborn response was immediate and calculated. Their ships moved to intercept the human vessels using formations that had proven successful against every previous Federation attack. Energy beams lanced out with perfect accuracy, targeting the humans exactly where logic suggested they would be most vulnerable. But the human ships were not where logic suggested they should be. Captain Danny Foster had deliberately damaged his own engines to create an unpredictable flight path that sent his vessel spinning through space in a pattern no computer could calculate. Major Kelly Brooks was flying her assault ship backwards while firing forward weapons, creating a targeting solution that violated every principle of space combat. "Dr. Collins, what are you seeing?" Ryan asked as his own ship wove through enemy fire using evasive maneuvers that would have been considered reckless by any alien pilot. "The Voidborn are trying to analyze our attack patterns, but they can't find any. Amy replied from her research station. Their targeting computers are designed to predict logical movement, but human pilots are making decisions based on intuition and split-second reactions. Ryan watched his tactical display as the battle unfolded around him. Human ships darted between the massive void-borne vessels like insects around giants, never staying in one place long enough for the enemy to lock onto them. When a void-borne ship tried to ram Captain Foster's damaged vessel, he somehow managed to slip past its hull and rake its underside with weapons fire. All ships, the enemy is adapting, Amy warned over the fleet comm. They're starting to use spread fire patterns to compensate for our unpredictable movements. Ryan saw immediately what she meant. The Voidborn had stopped trying to target individual human ships and were instead filling entire sections of space with weapons fire. It was a crude but effective response to an enemy that refused to behave logically. Time to change tactics. Ryan announced, all ships execute random targeting. Ignore military priorities and shoot at whatever feels right. The order would have horrified any alien commander, but the human fleet responded instantly. Instead of focusing fire on the most dangerous enemy vessels, human ships began attacking targets that served no apparent strategic purpose. Captain Turner opened fire on what appeared to be a minor communication array, while Sam Rodriguez led his Marines in an assault on a void-borne ship that seemed to have no military value whatsoever. The effect on the void-borne fleet was immediate and unexpected. The mechanical ships began moving in confused patterns as their coordination systems struggled to understand why the humans were attacking seemingly random targets. The communication array that Turner had destroyed turned out to be a critical network node, causing 3 nearby void-borne ships to lose synchronization with the main fleet. My God, Amy whispered over the comm. The void-borne can't adapt to targets. They can't predict. Their entire strategy depends on understanding why an enemy chooses specific objectives. Ryan felt a surge of hope as he watched the enemy fleet's perfect coordination begin to break down. The human attack had lasted only 20 minutes, but already the Voidborn were showing signs of confusion that no previous Federation assault had achieved. Commander Hayes, this is Captain Foster, came a crackling transmission. My ship is badly damaged, but I've got an idea that might work. Go ahead, Danny. What if we stop trying to destroy their ships and start trying to confuse them? These machines think logically, so let's give them problems that have no logical solutions. Ryan understood immediately. All ships, new orders. Stop trying to win this battle and start trying to make it as confusing as possible. Hit targets that make no sense, use weapons in ways they weren't designed for, and make every decision based on whatever seems most ridiculous. The human fleet responded with enthusiasm that would have terrified their alien allies. Captain Turner began using her ship's mining lasers as weapons, creating effects that no military computer had programming to understand. Major Brooks ordered her Marines to abandon their assault ship in spacesuits and attack void-borne vessels with handheld weapons, an action so tactically absurd that the enemy ships simply ignored them until it was too late. Dr. Collins worked frantically at her station, monitoring the void-borne fleet's responses to each impossible human action. Commander, their adaptive algorithms are starting to overload. They're trying to process too many variables that don't fit any known military doctrine. Ryan could see it happening on his tactical display. The void-borne ships, which had moved with perfect precision for millions of years, were now making errors in judgment and coordination. Some vessels were firing on empty space, where their computers predicted human ships should be, while others had stopped firing entirely, as their targeting systems struggled to process the chaos around them. All human vessels, press the attack. Ryan ordered, whatever you're doing, do more of it. The battle that followed defied every principle of space warfare that had been developed over centuries of galactic conflict. Human ships attacked in patterns that made no sense, used weapons in ways that violated their design specifications, and made tactical decisions that no artificial intelligence could predict or counter. Captain Foster, his ship barely holding, together managed to ram a void-borne vessel that was 3 times his size. Instead of being destroyed, his smaller ship somehow punched through the enemy's hull and emerged on the other side, trailing debris and atmosphere, but still firing weapons. Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez's Marines, floating in space with nothing but personal weapons, had somehow managed to disable 2 enemy ships by targeting components that no military analysis had identified as critical. Their success made no tactical sense, but the results were undeniable. As the battle entered its second hour, the void-borne fleet began to retreat. For the first time in recorded history, the ancient machines that had conquered countless civilizations were withdrawing from a battlefield because they could not understand their enemy's behavior. "Dr. Collins, are you seeing this?" Ryan asked as he watched the massive enemy ships pulling back from the human fleet. "I'm seeing it, but I'm not sure I believe it," Amy replied. "The Voidborn are designed to adapt to any logical military strategy. But human behavior is fundamentally illogical from their perspective. We're not just unpredictable, we're genuinely chaotic in ways their programming can't handle." The human fleet regrouped as the Voidborn ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind the partially consumed planets of the Kepler 442 system. Ryan looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew, seeing the same mixture of exhaustion and amazement that he felt himself. "All ships, damage reports," Ryan ordered. The responses came in quickly. 17 human vessels had been destroyed, and most of the surviving ships showed heavy damage. By any military standard, the engagement had been costly and barely successful. But as Ryan studied the tactical data, he realized that something unprecedented had happened. Humanity had forced the Voidborn to retreat, something that no other Federation species had accomplished. More importantly, they had done it by embracing the very qualities that other civilizations had always seen as weaknesses. News of the human victory at Kepler 442 spread through the Federation faster than anyone expected. Within days, alien species that had dismissed humanity for centuries were requesting detailed battle reports and tactical analysis. Commander Ryan Hayes found himself giving briefings to Xanthari strategists who had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war, only to watch their methods fail against the Voidborn. The human fleet had barely finished repairs when Admiral Lisa Parker contacted them with urgent new orders. The Voidborn had regrouped and were making a massive push toward the Centauri defense line, the last barrier protecting the Federation's core worlds. Every available ship from 47 different species was being assembled for what many believed would be the final battle of the war. "Ryan, I won't lie to you about what we're facing," Lisa said during their private communication. "Intelligence estimates the Voidborn have assembled over 300 capital ships at Centauri. It's the largest fleet they've deployed since awakening from the galactic rim." Ryan studied the tactical displays showing the enemy formation. The Voidborn had learned from their defeat at Kepler 442 and were adapting their strategies accordingly. Their ships now moved in looser formations that could respond more quickly to unpredictable attacks, and they had developed new weapons specifically designed to counter chaotic flight patterns. "What about Federation reinforcements?" Ryan asked. "That's the problem. The Krogan have lost 60% of their battle fleet. The Xanthari are down to their last reserve squadrons. Even the Ethereals have pulled back the remaining ships to protect their home worlds." Lisa paused before continuing. "Ryan, humanity might be fighting this battle largely alone." The weight of that statement settled over Ryan like a heavy blanket. When the human fleet had first been deployed, they were supposed to supplement the galaxy's established military forces. Now they were being asked to carry the primary burden of defending entire civilizations. General Pete Carter arrived at the far staging area with the remainder of Earth's deep space fleet, including ships that had never been intended for frontline combat. Research vessels, cargo haulers, and even civilian craft that had been hastily converted with weapons appeared alongside proper military ships. Captain Zoe Martinez commanded one of the experimental vessels that Earth's engineers had built using theories considered too dangerous by Federation safety standards. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is it," Ryan announced to the expanded human fleet. "Intelligence suggests that if we lose at Centauri, the Voidborn will have a clear path to every major population center in Federation space." Dr. Amy Collins had spent the past weeks analyzing data from their previous engagement, working with engineer Tony Walsh to develop new technologies based on their understanding of Voidborn weaknesses. Her research ship now carried devices that could project what she called chaos fields, zones of electromagnetic interference that disrupted the enemy's coordination systems. "The bad news is that the Voidborn have adapted to our previous tactics," Amy reported to the fleet commanders. "They've developed countermeasures for unpredictable flight patterns and random targeting. The good news is that they're still trying to understand chaos using logical methods, which is impossible by definition." Commander Luke Anderson, newly arrived with the Earth reinforcements, studied the tactical situation with growing concern. "Dr. Collins, if they've countered our previous advantages, what makes you think we can succeed in a direct confrontation?" "Because we're not going to use the same tactics twice," Amy replied. "The key to fighting the Voidborn is to never give them patterns to analyze. Every engagement has to be completely different from the last one." The human fleet moved toward the Centauri system, knowing that they faced odds that would have been considered hopeless by any rational military analysis. 300 Voidborn capital ships waited for them, supported by thousands of smaller vessels and defensive platforms that had been constructed from the raw materials of consumed worlds. As they approached the battlefield, Ryan could see the remnants of the Federation's previous defensive efforts. Debris fields marked the locations where entire alien fleets had made their final stands, their advanced technology and superior numbers proving useless against an enemy that adapted to every strategy. "All ships, this is Commander Hayes," Ryan announced as the human fleet prepared for battle. "Forget everything we did at Kepler 442. Today, we're going to try something that's never been attempted in the history of galactic warfare." Captain Martinez's voice crackled over the cum from her experimental vessel. "What did you have in mind, Commander?" "We're going to fight this battle backwards. Instead of attacking their strongest points, we'll target their weakest. Instead of using our best weapons first, we'll start with our worst. Instead of trying to win quickly, we'll drag this fight out as long as possible." The strategy violated every principle of military doctrine that had been developed over millennia of interstellar conflict. Conventional wisdom dictated striking hard and fast at the enemy's most vital targets, using maximum firepower to achieve quick victory. Ryan was proposing the exact opposite. "Sir, that makes no tactical sense whatsoever," observed Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mills from her position at the tactical station. "Exactly," Ryan replied with a grim smile. "The Voidborn are expecting us to fight logically, so we're going to fight as illogically as possible." The battle began with what appeared to be a human retreat. The entire fleet turned away from the Voidborn formation and began moving toward the edge of the system, as if they were fleeing before the engagement even started. The enemy ships moved to pursue, their formations spreading out to prevent the humans from escaping. And Captain Martinez activated her ship's experimental chaos field generators. Waves of electromagnetic interference spread through the battlefield, creating zones where sensor readings became unreliable and communication systems struggled to function properly. The void-born ships, dependent on perfect coordination, found themselves operating partially blind. "Now," Ryan ordered, and the human fleet reversed course. But instead of charging directly at the enemy, the ships scattered in all directions. Some attacked the void-born fleet from behind, others approached from above and below, and a few simply stopped moving entirely and began firing at maximum range. There was no coordination, no unified strategy, no apparent plan beyond creating as much confusion as possible. Captain Foster, his ship repaired, but still showing scars from the previous battle, flew directly at a void-born capital ship while broadcasting surrender messages on all frequencies. The enemy vessel, programmed to accept surrenders according to standard military protocols, lowered its shields for exactly 3 seconds. Foster used those 3 seconds to ram his ship directly into the enemy's main reactor. Kelly Brooks led her Marines in an attack that defied all logic. Instead of targeting military objectives, her assault ships began destroying what appeared to be void-born garbage disposal systems. The enemy ships ignored these seemingly pointless attacks until they realized that their waste processing networks were somehow connected to their main computer cores. As the battle raged, Ryan watched, his tactical display with growing amazement. The human fleet was taking terrible losses, with ships being destroyed faster than he could count. But for every human vessel lost, the Voidborn were showing signs of increasing confusion and coordination failures. "Dr. Collins, are you monitoring their responses?" Ryan asked. "Commander, their adaptive algorithms are breaking down completely. They're trying to counter strategies that don't exist and defend against attacks that make no sense. Some of their ships are actually fighting each other because their coordination protocols can't handle the chaos we're creating." Ryan realized that they were witnessing something unprecedented in the history of warfare. The Voidborn machines that had conquered the galaxy through perfect logic and adaptation were being defeated by the complete absence of logic and planning. The battle at Centauri reached its turning point when Captain Zoe Martinez made a decision that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Her experimental ship was badly damaged, its chaos field generators overloading and its hull breached in dozens of places. Most of her crew had already been evacuated to other vessels, leaving only a skeleton team to keep the ship operational. "Commander Hayes, this is Martinez." Her voice came through the comm with obvious strain. "My ship is finished, but I've got one last idea." Ryan could see her vessel on his tactical display, drifting helplessly between two massive Voidborn capital ships that were moving in to finish her off. "Zoe, get your people out of there while you still can." "Negative, sir. Dr. Collins discovered something about their network architecture that might change everything. The Voidborn ships are all connected through quantum communication links that allow them to share tactical data instantly. But those same links might be vulnerable to a specific type of neural pattern." Ryan understood immediately what she was suggesting. "You want to broadcast human brain patterns directly into their network. Not just any patterns, Commander. The most chaotic, unpredictable neural activity we can generate. If we can inject pure human consciousness into their system, it might cause a cascade failure throughout their entire fleet." The plan was insane by any reasonable standard. No one knew what would happen if human neural patterns were transmitted directly into alien computer systems. The feedback could kill the person making the transmission, or it might have no effect at all. But as Ryan watched the battle raging around him, with human ships being destroyed faster than they could be replaced, he realized they had few options left. "Do it." Ryan ordered. Captain Martinez began the process that would link her own mind directly to her ship's communication systems. Dr. Amy Collins provided the technical guidance from her research vessel, while Tony Walsh worked frantically to boost the signal strength. What they were attempting had never been tried before. connecting organic human consciousness to mechanical alien intelligence. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the void-born fleet. As Martinez's neural patterns flooded into their network, the perfect coordination that had made them invincible began to collapse. Void-born ships started firing on each other, their targeting systems confused by the chaotic human thoughts that now filled their communications channels. All human ships, press the attack now, Ryan ordered as he watched enemy vessels spinning out of control across the battlefield. But the victory came at a terrible price. Captain Martinez's ship exploded as the neural feedback overloaded every system on board. She had sacrificed herself to give humanity the opening they needed, and her death was felt by every human in the fleet. The remaining void-born ships, their network compromised and their coordination destroyed, began a fighting retreat toward the edge of the system. For the first time since their awakening, the ancient machines were truly defeated. Commander Luke Anderson led the pursuit, while Major Kelly Brooks coordinated search and rescue operations for human survivors. Ryan stood on his bridge, looking out at the aftermath of the battle. Debris from hundreds of ships drifted through space, marking the locations where brave men and women had given their lives to protect the galaxy. The human fleet had started the war with over 200 vessels, but fewer than 60 remained operational. Commander, we're receiving transmissions from across Federation space, reported Communications Officer Kate Morgan. Every major species is requesting permission to study our tactical methods. The irony was not lost on Ryan. For centuries, alien species had dismissed human military doctrine as primitive and chaotic. Now those same species were desperate to understand how humanity had accomplished what their advanced civilizations could not. Admiral Lisa Parker's face appeared on the main screen, her expression showing both relief and profound sadness. Ryan, the Federation Council has officially declared the void-born threat neutralized. Their remaining ships have retreated beyond the galactic rim and show no signs of returning. At what cost? Ryan asked quietly. Too high, Lisa admitted. Earth has lost nearly 10% of its young adult population. But without their sacrifice, every world in Federation space would have been consumed. The weeks that followed the battle transformed the political structure of the galaxy. The Zenthari, whose logical military theories had proven useless against the Void-born, began incorporating human chaos mathematics into their strategic planning. The Krogan warrior culture adapted to include human concepts of improvisation and creative destruction. Dr. Amy Collins found herself leading a new research initiative that combined human intuition with alien technology. The Federation's military academies began teaching courses on controlled chaos theory, trying to understand how emotions and instinct could enhance tactical decision-making. Captain Danny Foster, one of the few senior human commanders to survive the war, was appointed to head the new Human Integration Command. This organization ensured that human perspectives were included in all major Federation military planning, recognizing that their unique viewpoint had become essential for galactic security. The memorial service for the fallen was held on Earth, with representatives from every Federation species attending to honor the humans who had died protecting their worlds. Captain Martinez was posthumously awarded the Federation's highest military honor, the first human ever to receive such recognition. As Ryan stood before the memorial wall, listing the names of every human lost in the war, he reflected on how dramatically everything had changed. Humanity had entered the conflict as junior partners in a galactic civilization that barely tolerated their presence. They emerged as the species that other civilizations turned to when facing impossible situations. Commander Hayes, came a voice behind him. Ryan turned to see Dr. Collins approaching with a datapad in her hands. What is it, Amy? Deep space monitoring stations have detected new signals from beyond the galactic rim. The patterns are different from the Void-born, but they suggest that other ancient threats may be stirring. Ryan looked back at the memorial wall, thinking of all the friends and colleagues whose names were carved into its surface. And I suppose the Federation will want to deploy the humans again. Most likely, Amy replied with a slight smile. It seems we've developed quite a reputation for handling impossible situations. Ryan nodded slowly. Humanity had proven that. Their chaotic, unpredictable nature was not a weakness to be overcome, but a strength to be embraced. In a galaxy full of logical, predictable species, humans had become the essential wild card that could face any threat. Then we'd better start preparing, Ryan said. Because if there's one thing this war taught us, it's that the universe is full of situations that are completely out of control. As he walked away from the memorial, Ryan could see human ships in the distance undergoing repairs and upgrades. The crews working on those vessels were no longer the junior partners they had been before the war. They were the people the galaxy called when everything else had failed, the species that could succeed where logic and reason fell short. The Federation had learned an important lesson about the value of diversity and the power of different perspectives. And somewhere beyond the galactic rim, ancient intelligences that had slumbered for millions of years were beginning to stir, unaware that humanity now stood ready to meet them with the one thing they could never predict or understand: pure, chaotic human creativity. The situation might always be out of control, but now the galaxy knew exactly who to call when that happened.